Los salarios de los programadores suelen ser muy altos. Pues en este vídeo vamos a ver cuál es el salario de un programador en 2023 y cuáles son sus gastos para ver cuánto realmente le queda y puede ahorrar. Let's go!
Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Marco, and as some of you know, I'm a senior software engineer and I live in Oslo, Norway. So in this video, I wanted to cover a topic that I get asked a lot about, and that is how much money I actually make from my job. And also, while we are talking about that, I wanted to cover the living expenses here in Oslo, Norway. There is a really cool website called Glassdoor, and I'm gonna use it for reference purposes. So here's what the base salary looks like, and it's denominated in Norwegian kroner, but the easy way to compute that in, for example, US dollars is to just divide by 10. So basically this would be like $83,000 a year. Here you can see the pay scale, and for myself, it's somewhere in the sort of lower half of this scale, and that accounts for base pay. And then because I work at Kahoot, we also have stock options in the company, which when added to my base pay will kind of get me towards the middle of this range. Now, it's not very exact because the stock price moves a lot. It used to be a lot higher, but right now when I add it to my base pay, it comes out around average. Now, if you look at other companies here in Norway, some of them pay.
Bueno, realmente debería de haber dicho su salario exacto, o eso es lo que esperábamos todos, creo yo. Pero bueno, ha dado un rango y es básicamente... Ha dicho que entre la media, sin más. Vamos a ver qué dice.
Significantly better, for example, Microsoft and other big companies. I think it's just a part of the culture here. Now, there is one way that you can actually make more money as an employee working as a software engineer here in Norway, and that is by working as a consultant. Now, my salary is for a typical full-time employee position, but as a consultant, I have an email to show you the kind of offer that you can get here in Norway. Okay, so check out this email. This is a recruiter email that I received in January, and this is for a consultant position for a senior Java or .NET consultant. And you can see the offer is basically much higher than the typical full-time employee offer, and it's between 1 and 1.5 million kroner a year, which basically is like $100,000 to $150,000 a year. This is very typical that I noticed in Norway. Consultants always.
Vale, la oferta que le ha llegado básicamente es de $150,000 al año.
Now, one thing that really grinds my gears here in Norway is that even with 10 years of experience working as a senior software engineer, the best kind of offer that I can get for a consulting job is still kind of less than what a junior would get in United States. But it's just the reality of living in Europe. And I'm pretty sure some of you might be frustrated for me saying this, because I know there are countries that pay even less, and I have sympathy for you guys because I come from such a country and I know that pain.
Que en Europa se paga mucho menos que en Estados Unidos y en otros países, y que es doloroso, un poco frustrante el ver que bueno, que tienes mucha experiencia como desarrollador y que no se te paga como deberían, bueno, al menos como pagan en otros países. Pero bueno, al final es algo relativamente común. También los salarios son diferentes porque la calidad de vida es diferente, el costo de vida es diferente.
So that is pretty much my main income here in Norway, just basically my job income. But there is one side income that I want to talk to you about. From there, we are going to also transition into the expenses and everything else. The side income I want to talk to you about is actually my garage, because I don't own a car and the apartment that I live in actually comes with a garage place. I can rent it out. And so I make about 1,500 kroner a month from that, and which is about $150 US. So I mentioned that the garage is actually included in my contract and I can rent it out, but what else is included in my contract and what does it actually cost to live here? So we can start off with the most important cost, which is the rent itself. It's called finn.no, used to find pretty much anything in Norway, but we're gonna use it to look at different apartments, and I took a little bit of time to isolate 3 or 4 different apartments that I think are kind of representative of the apartment that I live in, and that some of my friends who are also engineers or work in similar positions that they have. So let's start with the first one. This is kind of like an artsy style apartment, very central downtown, and it's listed for 19,000 kroner.
Bastante bonito el puto apartamento. Lo que me jode es que está todo el rato poniendo las monedas de Noruega y lógicamente es complicado hacerse una idea de cuánto puede costar en euros o en dólares.
Now, moving on to the second apartment, which is much more similar to the one that I live in. It's kind of much further out. It's in a newer construction. You can see the style is a little bit different. It's a little more clean. It's a little bit more modern. But most importantly, everything is new. And that was very important for me because I had really bad experiences in my previous apartments when things started breaking and I didn't have connections to hire a handyman. So I actually...
Los apartamentos que está mirando literalmente son una locura. Vale, el cálculo de 19.000 kronas a euros son 1.600 euros. Es decir, por el alquiler está pagando 1.600 euros al mes. Por los pisos que nos está enseñando aproximadamente.
Ended up fixing a lot of it myself, and you can see here, for example, this room in particular is very typical of these apartments. It's like a secondary bedroom, and this is the same size that I have here that I'm recording this video in. The view is directly into your neighbors, and it's very typical for these like newer constructions. And this one is also listed for 19,000 kroner a month, but it's much bigger, as you can see, and most likely for this kind of price you actually get included heating, which is very important in the winter because that makes your electricity bills much lower. And electricity bills, if you don't pay for heating or hot water, are pretty small. Basically, they would be around 50 euros a month or something like that. Now, what if you actually want to buy a place? I have a lot of friends that actually bought apartments like a year and a half ago when there was this whole craze with like inflation and there was like really low interest rates and everybody was able to afford apartments. So let's take a look at two different apartments that are kind of similar to the ones that we looked at for renting, and let's do a little bit of a calculation. How many actual yearly salaries does it cost for you to buy a very similar place? Okay, so here's an apartment that is like very centrally located. It's very beautiful. It's kind of on the smaller side, but it's very nicely furnished. And we can take a look here at the price. It's listed at 8.5 million kroner with a total price of basically 8.7, which is like 870,000 US dollars. If you look at that price and if you compare it to the actual income that we had before, you can see that it takes basically 10 years of full-time before tax pay for an individual to afford such a place. And it was much easier to afford previously because the interest rates were lower. But let's take a look at another example where it's actually a newer construction, and for newer constructions it's typical in Norway that you have to pay less down payment. This area is a little bit further out of town, but what I want to show you...
Si tuvierais unos salarios tan altos como para poder permitiros pagar el alquiler de los pisos que está enseñando, ¿realmente estaríais en alquiler o empezaríais a pagar una casa o un piso? Porque es que yo creo que es mucho más rentable si tienes el poder adquisitivo para estar mirando alquileres de este tamaño que inviertas el tiempo en mirar casas para comprarte. Porque al final el alquiler es como un saco roto. Todos los meses se te está quitando parte del sueldo en el alquiler y no lo recuperas nunca jamás. Y tampoco tendrás nada en el futuro. En cambio, el meterte en una hipoteca o comprar una casa, ese dinero que se te va del sueldo, por lo menos, te asegura que en un futuro tengas ese sitio para poder vivir, ya sea de manera indefinida o que lo utilices como un apartamento para vacaciones, pero tienes algo, te queda algo para el futuro. El alquiler, en cambio, no. Simplemente pagas, se te va el dinero y no obtienes nada a largo plazo.
Although the problem with that is you have to pay the down payment even before the apartment is finished, and you can see all these stages where the sales start, and then only then the construction will start, and then you will be able to move in only in 2025. So that's the downside of buying a brand new place. But in general, here on the DNB website, which is like the Bank of Norway, we can see that the interest rate is actually 4.3%, which is much higher than what was maybe a year.
Este es el banco un banco de Noruega y básicamente tiene un porcentaje de interés muy alto, de por encima del 4, que la verdad que es una locura.
year and a half ago, it was maybe 1.7 or 2.2 max. So right now it's much harder to afford these apartments. And my personal opinion is that these kinds of places are actually going to start dropping in value in the following year, because I actually read the financial report of the Bank of Norway, and they are actually going to continue raising interest rates for 2024 and going into 2025. So all these places that I showed you are going to be way out of reach for a lot of people, and my assumption is that because of that, they're going to start dropping in value. Okay, so here's the app that I actually use to order groceries and food, and I just want to show you, if we go to my profile and then we go into order history, you can see all my orders and what they cost. So actually, whenever you see the market, that's groceries, and 373 kroner is basically $37, and that would be groceries for maybe a day and a half. And then when you have this toast, that's me actually eating out this one particular meal that I really enjoy. And you know, it's a really good toast, but I mean, $18 for a toast and delivery, it's kind of expensive.
El gimnasio cuesta unos $50 al mes, que bueno, no lo veo del todo mal, es caro comparado con España, pero también hay gimnasios en España que cuestan eso y están bastante bien. Y ahora mismo está recomendando tener, por así decirlo, bonos de transporte público, ya que en Noruega es muy difícil encontrar aparcamiento y los impuestos que tienes que pagar, por lo que al final te sale más rentable el moverte por transporte público que tener un coche propio.
Of trams, so just riding a bicycle is actually the most effective. It's actually like having a cheat code to the city, and that's what I prefer. But if you want to ride the public transport, that will cost you maybe 80 to 100 euros depending on the zone for a monthly ticket, with unlimited access to boats, trams, buses, and subway. Okay, so that's pretty much a wrap. Let me know in the comments, depending on where you live, what kind.
No, parece que ha jugado un poco con nuestros sentimientos. En plan, ha estado bien para hacerte una idea de cuánto puede costar vivir en Noruega, y realmente me esperaba algo más conciso. Sí, es verdad que al principio ha dado un rango de salario, pero lo que yo quería ver era que me dijera el salario exacto, me dijera los gastos exactos y cuánto te queda al mes. O al menos eso es lo que a mí me hubiese gustado ver. Pero de todas formas está bastante bien para orientarte. Y nada, es bastante curioso ver cómo cambia el estilo de vida en función del país en el que estás. Espero que os haya gustado el vídeo y no olvides suscribirte para no perderte ningún próximo vídeo, que se vienen vídeos como este reaccionando a personas que trabajan en Google, incluso que han estado 17 años allí, que tienen muchísima experiencia y encima dan consejos, que ese vídeo tengo muchísimas ganas de grabarlo. Que vaya muy bien en tu escritura de código. Chao, chao.